Hello my friends and welcome to my channel. My name is Severiano Paoli and today we're gonna talk about the double bass. So today we've reached the last chapter of this series about the bow, and the topic of today is what we call the modern bow, so this thingy that you see in my hands. I already said now, the bows I'm going to analyze today are of the type of the underhand type, so what we commonly call German bows. I'm not going to talk about specifically French bows, so overhand bows, because first of all that would take a long time, so perhaps I will make another video about that, and second, anyway, the concepts are the same. But now, let's take a look at what this thing is. Last time, we talked about this bow, what we commonly call the Dragonetivo. So, as you can see, a bow that is convex, with a very high head, a rather high frog, which is extremely elastic and with a lot of percussion and such. And a bow that is very versatile. I mean, you know how much I love Dragonetti bows, I don't need to explain it here. But then, how did we get from this shape to this one, and especially why? Let's take a look into it. Let's try to give an answer to our question, why did we end up with this design? We are in the 19th century. Romantic music is blooming and is changing the way we think and we perform music. First of all, Romantic music has very long lines, very long phrases, and has this very important, this very intense singing quality. When you play Romantic music, you must sing. That's one of its main characteristics. And for Romantic music to convey this, the passion, all the feelings that belong to it, we need to use sounds that are different than what we used before. While in Baroque and classical music, clarity and transparency were highly sought after, and so sounds that would give this effect, in Romantic music you need sounds that are intenser and that are much warmer, I would say darker. How do we translate these elements into string playing? Well, the string playing, it means that if we want to achieve this singing, this beautiful legato way of playing, which is typical of Romantic music, we need a bow that allows us to play intense, warm and consistent bow strokes. And let's keep this word in mind, consistent. Let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at this convex bow. So, when we put this bow on the string and we start applying pressure, what happens? The hair goes this way, and by doing so, it drags these 2 points with itself. And imagine like this is a circle, and tip and frog try to converge. This means that the tension of the hair goes down. Now, this isn't a particular problem as long as you are at the frog, because we have all the weight of the arm there. But it starts becoming an issue when we get to the tip. Here the weight is much further, and with the tension going down, it's more difficult to get the same quality that we get here. That's why convex bows have indeed this, let's say, inequality between the two bow strokes, which is very good when playing Baroque and classical music, but is not ideal in Romantic music, where we need consistency. And in this sense, this design comes in handy. Take a look. The camber is exactly the other way around. When we put the bow on the string, the stick bends this way, goes this way, and these 2 points, the tip, I got it right this time, and the frog, actually go this way. This makes the tension of the hair slightly increase. And this is very good for the fact that, it will still not be so relevant at the frog, but at the tip, yes, because the increase in tension will actually counterbalance the lack of weight, since our arm is further. This allows us to have the same quality, the same intensity, both at the frog and the tip, and both in down bow and in up bow. And this is ideal when playing romantic music. The fact that with this bow we can have the same sounds, both in down bow and in up bow and all through the bow, let's say, allows us to play, to use any sort of bowing to play a lot of passages. I still remember that when I learned how to play the double bass, my teacher often made me repeat an exercise with like reversed bow strokes in order to get me to achieve that sort of control all over the bow. And this is definitely easier with this design than it would be with a convex bow. You can of course train yourself with that too, and that's very good, but it's simply not meant for that. So I'm just gonna make you a small example of a piece that I haven't played in years, so sorry for that. But so you can see that no matter which way my bow goes, my sound stays constant. If you were not looking, you wouldn't maybe guess which bowing I'm using, whether I'm going down bow or up bow, or at least I hope it sounds like that. And so on. As you notice, I can keep the same intensity both in down bow and in up bow. And this is why this is so used for this music genre. Now that we've seen the characteristics of this sort of bow, let's take a look at some specimens. Let's have some fun. Okay, this is the Flintstones version of what I had before. This is a bow from most likely the beginning of the 20th century. Well, I mean, this is made of cherry wood, and it's was probably made by an amateur and most likely used for a dance band, by bass player in a dance band or stuff like that. In any case, what you can see is, despite the different proportion and a way less pronounced curve, it already has those characteristics. Anyway, it has a concave camber. And yeah, this makes it, anyway, what we call a modern bow. Then, a couple of decades later, we get this. This is a bow from around the 50s of the 20th century. Let alone that this is made by a professional bow maker and it's a completely different object. But take a look. It has, of course, more camber, the curve is more pronounced than the previous one, but still it is less pronounced than on this one, which is modern. This is a bow that it's a splendid bow that the Italian bow maker Paolo Brancato made for me, and you can see it has a lot more curve than the previous ones, although not too much because I asked her not to exceed with it. What we can see, if we look at the development of this typology of bows, is that through the years, bow makers have put more and more camber. So if we look at earlier bows, there is this famous picture of Kusevitsky, for example, where he has a bow that is almost straight, and whereas bows that are made nowadays are often like really curved. Sometimes it almost seems like the stick touches the hair. This, of course, this more pronounced camber gives you a lot more adherence, more control, more bite on the string, but on the other hand you lose some elasticity, obviously, and so maybe your legato will be gorgeous, maybe spiccato you will need to work more in order to bring it out. Anyway, this is my personal speculation, but I think it makes sense. The increase of the curve, especially in the last decade, has to do with the fact that players have started using, first of all, a switch from gut strings to steel strings. Gut strings have a lower tension, and you don't need to actually give so much bite to make them start sounding, whereas steel strings do. And and also players start using more like tenser and tenser strings, although nowadays we are sort of going backwards in that sense. And anyway, so in order to sustain, to have a good sound with an increased tension and a material that is stiffer than gut, then the camber has increased. I mostly see soloists using both with a lot of camber. Orchestral players tend to have a little bit less, for the simple fact that in orchestra we use a lot of spiccato and this kind of articulation. Most players, most professionals will have anyway more than one bow depending on what they are doing. One thing that is also interesting to see is that this bow, for example, is made of cherry, but most of this kind of bow that you will see are made of Pernambuco. Pernambuco has established itself as the king of woods for bow making because of its, undeniable tonal and mechanic characteristics. Sometimes you find bows, even snakewood, rosewood, although nowadays it's a bit problematic, and other materials which can sound really, really well, so nothing against it. I personally like, for example, the sound of beechwood or rosewood, but yeah, 95% of the bows you'll see around of professional bows will be made of Pernambuco, or cheaper bows made of Brazil wood, which is anyway Pernambuco, it comes from the same plant, but it's yeah, it's less dense, it's quality-wise is a bit lower, and therefore it costs something less. So this is it for today, and this was the last chapter of this short series about the bow. I hope you enjoyed this series. I hope you found it informative, and of course you found it fun. I really had a lot of fun making it, and especially because it led me to ask myself some questions, to discover new things. I really wish to thank all the fellow musicians and colleagues who have helped me to get all the information I put in these videos. Of course, there are many more things to know about bows that can't sit into a 20-minute video or what it is, and I also don't consider myself to be the greatest authority in that sense, but I hope that from my videos you got the stimulus perhaps to, also make your own research and discover about this thing that is so important for us. I really wish to thank all the people that, all the friends from the Facebook group, Historical Bass Nerd Room. All of them have been very, very, very kind, and they've given me a lot of information. They have replied to all my questions about bows, so I will not thank people individually because they're really a lot, but you are great guys, thank you so much. This said, well, of course this is the last video of this series, unless somebody invents a new sort of bow, then I'll talk about that. But it's not my last video, so stay tuned on the channel. If you have any comments, any question or any remark, please write it down. If you liked the video, put your like and suggest it to friends. If you didn't like the video, put like and suggest it to enemies. Anyway, stay tuned on my channel, and soon I will come with new content about other topics. Thank you so much, my friends. I really wish you all the best, and see you next time. Ciao!